All right, so welcome everyone. We will get started and go over the usual, just go over the market and as well as a few different stocks I'm looking at this week. And then before we get into that, I just want to recap a couple stocks that I mentioned in last week's live session. So the first one is AMD. I mentioned it when it was hanging out right above our bullish support of 104.44, and I was mentioning that it broke above this trend line, which was a resistance, and look for a push above the SMA line and above our breakout. Once it got to our breakout, then it'd push up towards our targets. So far, AMD hit our first target and is just below our second target. So if anyone followed that one and ended up making some money, good job on that. And then our next one is Box. So with Box, I mentioned it right here when we were hanging out near that breakout area. We're approaching the resistance area of this channel. And I mentioned to look for some good volume come in and also a close above the breakout and above that channel. It did here on the 13th, and it gapped up right to our target and then ended up selling off. And then the third one would be SOFI. So I mentioned it here when it closed above our breakout. The next day it rallied to our target, kind of hung around there and then, pushed up above, traded sideways a little bit and then pushed up past our second target. So that one ended up having good follow through. And then to get started on the market for SPY here. So I was mentioning look for SPY to hold above our bullish support of 434.6, and it ended up holding that. It did kind of break down but reversed there, held well above that bearish trend line here, and then gapped up above our breakout and then up to our first target. So now what I'm looking for is it to hold above that price target, which is at 446.75. And if it can do that, then I expect to push up to our second target. If it ends up rejecting 446.75 and starts trading below that level, then we'll see a retest of our breakout area, which is at 441.68, which is also where our 50 SMA line is here. There's a little bit of a gap right there. It closed most of it today, so I'm going to take that part off because it's not as significant, but expect that if it rejects. But if it holds, then we're running to 453. All right. So with this one, this is Lululemon, ticker's LULU. I mentioned this to our chat group, I'd say last week, maybe on Thursday. And we entered the trade here, and we entered like a normal swing and then a high risk swing as well. We ended up closing out all of our high risk swing at 89%, and then are not as high risk of an option contract at 52%. Then we repositioned with a contract that was 3 weeks out just to give us some extra time, but it's approaching our first target at $420. I'm bullish as long as it holds above our breakout, which is at 408.61 cents. And then after it hits our target at 420, we can see a push up to our second target, which is at 430, and then our very final target is at 437.5. All right, so next one is cost. This is another one I mentioned to our trading team on Thursday, but today it broke out. So this one is going to be good for a day trade tomorrow, which will be Tuesday on the 19th, and also a swing as well. If it holds above our breakout area of 459.59, then this will be good right up to our first target of 468.9. And then if it closes above our first target, holds that as support, then we'll see a continuation up to $480, which is our second target. All right, so next one is CAT. So CAT broke above this bearish trend line here, and it's starting to push up above and hold above our breakout area, which is now our support. And so far it's just consolidating, but it's setting up for a move up to our first target and potentially the second target. If you do trade this, just be aware that earnings are on the 28th. So that's about 10 days from now. Definitely, I suggest if you do end up playing this, be out before earnings, because that always is a gamble. And then for our next one, we have Peloton. So Peloton, we are in this bearish channel here. Make it a little bit bigger for y'all. And it broke below and then is starting to regain back into that channel. So it's creating some support, consolidating in between our bullish support of $85 and then our breakout area of $89.47. So since it's consolidating, I'm waiting for a close below our breakout, close above our breakout on the daily. And then once it closes above that, then we look good for a run up to our first target, potentially our second. But there is earnings on the 4th, so keep that in mind. All right, so for Square, I'm gonna go to the weekly chart briefly. So there is this trend line here, which has been a resistance area for a few times. It did kind of overshoot here, but then pulled back below it. So there is that trend line there, but here on the daily, this is what I'm seeing. So there's this bearish channel right here, and it's starting to push up above our breakout area. Today we were able to close above the channel and our breakout. And if you see the volume here, we have above average volume, which is a really good sign that shows that there will be some follow through. There is, which I showed in this little gray box here, a gap, which it will fill. So definitely keep an eye on this for a day trade opportunity, at least up to, what is that? 255.80. And potentially more for a day trade, but for a swing trade, as long as it holds above our breakout level of 251.65, then this looks good for a push up towards our target. But like I said, when I went to the weekly chart, just keep in mind that there is that trend line right there. All right, so next one is PayPal. PayPal was consolidating here, broke above that bearish trend line, and it closed above our breakout level today. Our breakout level is 268.69, and as long as it continues to hold that level as support, then we look good for a push up to our first target of 276.40. And if it closes above that and holds that as support, and closes above this SMA level, which is the 100 SMA here on the daily, then we look good for continuation up to our second target, which is at 286.25. All right, so we have two more. Our second to last one here is ROKU. So let's see, here on ROKU, we have a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders. So we have like a shoulder there, the head here, and a slight pullback there. Now we're shooting off to break out of that inverse head and shoulders up towards our targets. So as long as it holds above the breakout of 339.6, then we look good for a run, I'd say tomorrow or the following day, to 356 and 75 cents. And then from there we could see a push up to our second target of 378.5. All right, so our last one here is AMC. So with AMC, we have this resistance area, which is this trend line there that's rejected twice, and it's starting to approach that level. But it did push above our breakout level today of 41 and 78 cents and above the 100 SMA. So this looks good for a run up to at least our very first target, which is at $45.90. If it continues above that and closes above this, this bearish trend line, then we'll look good for a run up to $51. And I know AMC is a popular one for people that have been holding for, long term or somewhat long term, just with, the whole GameStop frenzy and whatnot. So for those people that are holding long term, I have, that trend line that I mentioned that's acting as a resistance. And then we have, a support level, which let's say like 32 and some change. So we have a formation. It's a descending triangle here, and we're looking for a break above that. And if it does break above that, then we'll look for, a pretty solid rally to the upside, at least towards previous all-time highs, which is around like $72, almost 73. But keep in mind that earnings are on the 1st of next month, so just be aware of that. But yeah, that's it for this week, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.